Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan, and we are bringing your weekly edition of Tottenham Boys making all the noise, and of course with the regular panel that you expect, Jack, Ben, and Sean. Jack, how are you keeping, brother?
Keeping pretty well. Good to have this panel back together. I guess a lot has happened since the last time we did have this sort of discussion with the four boys, but plenty to talk about. We have some pretty controversial questions lined up. I'll be honest, everybody, just as a disclaimer, we do like to put it in a bit of a neutral fashion. We don't like to, hide our sort of, allegiance or our bias in the question. We're putting out there, let people have their say. All opinions welcome. So I'm looking forward to this one, Dave. Definitely going to be a spicy one with some of the questions.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, a hell of a lot to talk about. Shawnee, how are you keeping, my man?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Yeah, good to be back with you guys. It's always fun. It's a great time of the week. Just hope that my Wi-Fi can hold it together for the next 90 minutes. And if it doesn't, I apologise. But let's keep our fingers crossed, eh?
If not,
sound like our defence, Sean. Your internet sounds like our defence.
Leaky. Yeah.
If not, I encourage everybody to at Sky, tell them that Shawnee's internet isn't up to standard and it's not good enough. Ben, fresh back from Frankfurt. How are you keeping, brother?
Look, back from Frankfurt, I think fresh is a bit of an overstatement. I think, it was a good time out there, but a bit worse for wear still. I tell you, the older I get, the longer the hangovers last.
Benny gets butlered everywhere he goes.
Benny gets butlered. Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, guys, we've so much to talk about. Gary Neville made comments after the North London derby saying that maybe Conte's style of play or philosophy is outdated, so we'll definitely be getting the panel's thoughts on that. We'll also be delving a bit more into what Conte maybe could or maybe should do from our perspective, maybe to get the team to click into top gear. We'll also be talking about Hugo Lloris. He's very controversial at the minute. And we'll be talking about the mentality and Hugo Lloris's leadership as well. So a lot of heavy talking points to get into tonight. If you do enjoy this, and along the way, if you could, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button if you are new, and feel free to get a super chat in at any stage. Air your thoughts. We'll also give our thoughts off the back of it, and it just highlights it and basically means you skip the rest of the chat and we will get straight to it. But as always, keep getting your comments in. We'll keep an eye on them and we will be bringing them up as we go through the show. But Jack, I'll take it away, my man.
I'm taking it away, Dave. And sometimes, we do like to beat around the bush maybe and go with different sort of questions before we get to the main question of the evening. This time, no, we're going with the main question of the evening. Speaking to Sean's internet provider, Gary Neville said after the defeat to Arsenal, I thought Spurs were awful. I don't think we should apologize for saying that. I thought their ambition was poor. I thought they played too deep. It sent a message to Arsenal. Yeah, they got back into the game, and you're thinking Conte can win a game like that. We've seen managers over the years who are brilliant at winning games in that sort of passive manner, but we're seeing a lot less of it. It's becoming a lot less of a theory that can succeed in football. Does he have a point here, Gary Neville, in your eyes, Ben?
Not really, to be honest. I think that I've had enough of people questioning Conte's methods. I really am. The guy is a proven winner everywhere he's gone. And we're not talking about Jose Mourinho, where he won it like 5, 6, whatever, how many years ago it was. We're talking about everywhere he's gone. He's won stuff in the recent history. Yeah, we were sitting a bit too deep against Arsenal, but Eric Dyer came out and said that's not what Conte asked us to do. He asked us to press more. He asked us to push on more, and that's not what the team were doing. So, I mean, I completely disagree with the narrative saying that Conte's tactics are outdated and we need a different style, different philosophy. I really disagree with it totally. And I think that when you're looking at the Arsenal game in an isolated game, that last 20 minutes of the first half, we were the better team. We could have got a goal or two if our passing in the final third was spot on. It wasn't. And then, Hugo makes that mistake and Emerson gets that stupid red card and the game's ultimately over in the second half. So I think that people are making a bit too much of the North London derby, because I think that that game, we really could have taken something from that game if we would have got our passing right in the final third. And on the Frankfurt game as well, I think that we played really well in Frankfurt, just our front three let us down. So I think that individuals are letting us down at the moment, but I'm not questioning Conte's methods, and not at all.
Yeah, great answer, Ben. Just a quick follow-up, though. Do you feel like he's playing a bit more passive this season, Antonio Conte, than maybe what you saw last season, especially since you are able to see not only the games on TV, but as well as in person? You get to kind of get both kind of tastes there. Do you feel like the games are a bit more passively played this season, or is something different this season? Or what are your thoughts on that, maybe comparison this season to last season?
there definitely has been a change somewhere. I can't really put a finger on what's actually changed, because back end of last season, we were building up play really nicely from the back. The last 10 games, the football was pleasing on the eye. We were scoring bucket loads of goals. We were mean at the back. I don't really know what's changed, to be honest. The players are all the same. The manager's the same. I don't think the instructions changed from Conte or anything like that. But I'm struggling to put my finger on what is actually the issue here. I'm just still clinging on to the fact that at some point in the near future, we're going to click and you're going to see that kind of football that we saw at the back end of last season. But I don't really put it down to Conte's methods, no.
Great answers there, Ben. Great answers. Maybe I'm only saying that because I definitely agree with at least some of them, and I think they're very bravely put as well. But Sean, is Conte's tactics outdated? And does maybe Gary Neville have a point here where even at the end of it, he kind of says that we've seen managers over the years who are brilliant at winning games in that sort of passive manner, but we're seeing a lot less of it nowadays. Yeah. It's becoming a lot less of a theory that can succeed in football. Does Gary Neville have a point here in your eyes?
Well, I think he has a point because the profile, the names of the higher profile managers that have played that methodology and succeeded are fairly few and far between. Mm-hmm. And the ones that had success before, like Ben was saying, Mourinho is a great example. It tailed off in success for him, at least in the UK. So he has a point for the point he's making. But I tend to agree with Ben that that there's nothing necessarily outdated.
Not again.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you in a second, because I agree with what you're saying to a degree. Like, I agree with what Gary Neville was saying. As much as the point that you're making, I can agree with. But the overall picture, I don't like the football that we're playing at Tottenham Hotspur. And I think that when you were being asked what's the difference between this season and last season, you're saying you can't really put the finger on it. For me, I think that we're guilty maybe of misremembering the football, because we played in games last season that had successful outcomes where we scored 4 or 5 goals, that maybe it flattered to deceive, and that you remember them as playing better football than we actually played in those games. I don't think we ever played particularly attractive football last year. We played successful football. And if you go on and take your chances, if the front three are taking their chances early in games where you go on to win 5-0, there's a consequence of going 1 or 2-0 up in the first half. The other team has to come out and play, which opens up more space and allows you then to go on and hit 3, 4, and 5. But if that doesn't happen, if you don't have those early successes in the games, then the other team can stay more compact and it doesn't become quite as free-flowing. But I don't remember Tottenham ever coming out really and just firing and going with pure creativity when the game was 0-0 in too many games last year. So the major difference for me is the fact, again, where I agree with Ben, is that the individuals at the top end of the pitch are not taking their chances, aren't doing their jobs. But that doesn't excuse, for me, what I want to see from a Tottenham team when it comes to the style of football. I'd like to see Tottenham play further up the pitch. It's really interesting what Ben said about Eric Dyer saying that wasn't the instruction to sit back. Maybe not in that particular game. In that particular game, if you look at the average positions,
or maybe not that deep, at least.
It was incredibly deep. But I do think that Tottenham's squad is capable of playing far better football and far further up the pitch and have more success than we have seen in the 8-9 games this season. And Frankfurt on Tuesday was a fantastic example. We did come out, we did push up, we did press, and we had relative success. Again, it was just the individuals up the top. So I don't know if that's an agreement or disagreement, because like I take some points that Ben is saying, but ultimately I think that Tottenham still need to play better football than we're playing.
Yeah, Dave, go ahead. No, I was going to give Sean his own follow-up question.
Yeah, go on.
Give his own special follow-up question.
I'll disagree in a minute.
Do you feel like, Sean, is it now, like you just maybe alluded to, we were probably just very overwhelmed by the winning. We were very overwhelmed with the convincing results and score lines that Antonio Conte was providing us. And maybe the football on paper has actually not really been that different from what we're sort of seeing now. Do you feel like it's, maybe Spurs fans just sort of catching up, or Spurs fans sort of now getting a bit used to Conte, and now it's starting to come about maybe these I don't know, murmurings, or at least, kind of displeasure that's coming out?
Yeah. So look, a lot of people were like, I wasn't one of these guys. When I did my review of the game on Tuesday, for example, I was relatively pleased. I thought that Tottenham played the best, most attractive football that we played this season. And I'll take a 0-0 result in Germany. Obviously, it's frustrating that we probably could have gone and won that game with 3 or 4 goals. But then you listen to Tottenham fans, and they complain when I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but just generally there's an element of we're never happy. Like we complain when we win, but we don't win well. We complain when we play well, but don't win. And unless it's perfect, there's always something to be unhappy about. And I don't think that Tottenham at the moment are in the position where we can be greedy to expect to play well and win in every game. The squad has been riddled with little niggles of injuries. It's not something that most teams are talking about. And so there's lots of variables, lots of influence that is responsible for the limits in what Tottenham are capable of, I think, at the moment. But yeah, like I say, I think that if Tottenham had won on Tuesday, the narrative would be far different than it is currently, because we would have won and we would have played well. But unfortunately, we didn't win, but we played well, and people are still unhappy. It's a frustrating kind of head scratch for me.
The interesting thing I took from that is that perhaps we are starting to get a bit used to what we're seeing. And, you know, when it comes to that, people start to maybe realize that they don't actually like what they're seeing. But Dave, thoughts on kind of this whole conversation so far? Do you agree with Gary Neville with the fact that perhaps the style of football, this passive style of football, no longer as effective as it used to be and actually a bit outdated?
No, disagree. Absolutely disagree. They just don't want our style of football having us inside the top four, and that's where the pressure mounts from. They want the old traditional back top four of United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea. You know, and obviously now City's up there. There's nothing they can do about it. They don't want us in there playing the way we do because it's not a good promotion for the Premier League. So that's why they ask the questions in the press conferences they do. That's why people in the media go after Tottenham managers and our football club in general the way they do. Look, for me, I get everybody wants to see more attractive attack. But under Jose Mourinho, we got fed up with the football. We said, sack him. Let's go and get someone else in. What did we get? We got Nuno. Was the football any better? No, it wasn't. So there's nothing to say that getting rid of Conte will make the football any better. We also have to understand, we want to play on the front foot attacking football. We have to have better caliber players in here to do that. We don't have that. We don't have the defense to go and do it either, in my opinion. So we are set up, the way we are set up is it keeps us in every single game. It gives us an opportunity to go and win every single game. Name me a game where we've actually been out of the game, where we haven't been able to go and nick a result, like completely out of the game, 2-3, 4-0 down. It hasn't happened under Antonio Conte. And I would say, We've got to be careful what we wish for here. You know, Conte is not a smart guy. You also got to ask yourself, why has all the managers since Pochettino come in and played defensive football? Why? Because we do not have the backline we once had, who were good on the ball, but also solid defensively and could defend one-on-one and didn't need as much help from the forward players further up the pitch. The defense has slowly declined, and that's why Jose Mourinho, smart man, he doesn't need any incentive to play defensive football. But the reason why we sat so deep and the line was as deep as it was is because our defence wasn't good enough. He was doing it to protect the defence. Nuno just couldn't create chances, but we were set up the way we were. It's because we weren't good enough to go and press and harry in that after the football. And so far under Conte, it's sort of been the same. So you have to question why have three managers all come in here and played that sort of defensive type of football. Look, we don't have the money like Liverpool or like City have had, where you can go and bring in the best class in every single position. So that's why they play the way they do. But the great equalizer is the way Conte plays. He's proven it. He's gotten results off City, Liverpool and stuff like that. And I also say back to the style of play. Great under Pochettino, but what did it win us? At times you were craving just to have a proper setup to be able to stifle some of the big teams. We could not compete with some of the big six teams or some of the big four teams at the time. Anytime we played them, our results were horrendous in them big games. But now under Conte, we're actually picking up results in them big games. So if we can get ourselves over the hurdle, over that line, into them finals, I back Conte to be able to have a system to set up and to be able to deliver that trophy where maybe Poch didn't. Now, where I do agree with Shawnee is maybe against some of the lower league teams where you should be dominating. You can't let your players off the leash a little, let them go and press, because them teams don't really carry as much as a threat. And maybe he could appease the fans, but also, you know, he can stick to his style and his philosophy. But anyway, who are people to question this guy's philosophy? He's got a cabinet full of trophies, cabinet full of them. Jose Mourinho, everyone said he was outdated, he was finished, his tactics don't work anymore. Well, But guess what? He went on and won a Europa Conference League after that. And we're still the only club he hasn't won a trophy at. So at some stage, we have to have a bit of perspective here. You may think it might get better under Conte, but there's also a huge element to say it won't. And I just refer back to Nuno coming in here. You know, it's all well and good saying this guy out, but who's going to come in next? You can bring in an attacking sort of manager, but he doesn't have the sort of players to play that way. We've got great attackers, but so do England. But England also play as a defensive setup because they know that backline is not strong enough. So they protect that backline. And unfortunately, I think Conte is doing the best of his ability to what he has in this squad.
But we can play better football.
We can.
The squad is capable of playing better football.
We've proven that last season. We proved it on
Tuesday night. We also proved it on Tuesday night.
We've a better squad now than what we do last season. But the difference is we've 6 new players to integrate into this. And we're struggling to do that at the minute. But once it all clicks together, I'm convinced we will be up in and around the top of the table all season long. Just give it time. Just give it patience. I urge people. Do you want to give this project patience under Paratici and Conte? Because if Conte goes, Paratici will be soon out the door after, and so will Harry Kane. Or do you want to be like Man United and Arsenal and sit there at Ten Hag and Arteta? And people are going to say, well, they're doing good jobs. Great. But United are so far off where they used to be in terms of winning everything. Arsenal are so far off in terms of winning the things that they won. So far off their clubs are from what they used to be. And the reason why is because after the longevity of their managers, they went through a stage of hiring and firing nearly every 2 years. And it got to the point at both clubs where they also had a squad assembled and a caliber of a squad assembled with all the reflections of different managers' choices of players coming in here. And they had to stop. They had to put a halt to it and bring in guys and trust a project that fans may necessarily have not wanted to back or get after. So we have to stick by this because it'll get worse. But also, if you want what Man City and you want what Liverpool have had, you want what United had in the past, guess what? Their managers all didn't come in here and hit the ground running, but they stuck by them, and the longevity of it and bringing in players for their philosophy and everything else ultimately ended up paying them rewards. And that's what we have to do.
Dave, but
let's be honest, right? Everyone who wants to say Conte's methods are not working, Conte's methods are outdated. The back end of last season, from when we signed Kulusevski to the end of the season, we were the top goal scorers in the league. And you're talking about a pragmatic manager here, and you're saying that this team can't score many goals. We're the top goal scorers in the league. From March until now, we've only lost 2 games. So I get that we're not playing such great football at the moment, but the proof is in the pudding with the results that we've got. That only 2 losses since March, the highest goal scorers in the league at one point. You know, I really don't get why people are doubting Conte. I really don't.
I just want to clarify. Like, I'm obviously taking thus far in the debate tonight. I'm taking the position where I feel like we can do better than we are, but I'm in no way. Right, and I'm not representing anything like Conte out. Right? Mm-hmm. I hate this narrative and it exists with Daniel Levy as well, that if you are unhappy with a part of someone's process or job, production, whatever it is, then you can't. You go from 0 to 100, and it has to be you're either 100% behind him or you 100% want the guy to go. And it's the same with Conte. All of a sudden, like there's if you're not hot, it doesn't mean you're cold, and vice versa. There's a million degrees in between. And for me, I'm not. Of course, it'd be ridiculous to think for me to be considered to be Conte out. All I want to do is say, look, dude, you're the best manager in the world.
You have solutions in front of you, I think is what you're trying to say.
And the idea that you can't challenge him because he knows better, because he's a £15 million a year as Tottenham fans, I think, especially when it's your club and you have a passion for that fan base and you support it financially, not only do you have the right and the privilege of an opinion, but you also have the responsibility to represent various opinions without having to be pigeonholed into in or out on whatever the topic is. You can have a say without needing to be fearful of how you're represented by other people who don't disagree or don't agree with you.
Just wanted to take this great comment from Uchechi Ndukwe, which is also just a great name to say. I had a lot of fun saying it. I actually agree with Gary Neville. In the modern age, you do not win trophies playing negative football. I'll caveat that by excluding the Serie A, where they all play like that. Just thought I'd get that kind of sort of devil's advocate sort of argument out there to counter Dave, and it was a great rant by Dave there, I must say. But just thought I'd put up Uchechi's kind of comment just in contrast to Dave there.
Disagree though. Ranieri won the Premier League playing that way, and correct me if I'm wrong. Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp were in the league at the time. He won playing that counter attacking football. Jose Mourinho won trophies doing it. Yes, it may not last forever, but what it does do is it builds a foundation, it builds a culture, getting the trophies in here, being hard to beat, and knowing what it takes to win trophies. And then after that happens, you can then bring in a different guy with more of an attacking philosophy and play the way you want, because ultimately winning trophies will bring better caliber players here, and it's about evolving. But right now, what Paratici and Conte are doing is building the foundations, and they just need a bit of patience, a bit of time to work it all out. We're hard to beat as is. It if this is the worst it gets, I mean, my God, kill me.
What you're saying is like, yes, the last few people that have won the league is Pep and Klopp, but that's only because Man City have been so good and they've had the world of wealth to throw at it. You know what I mean? Like, we haven't had really a good, like a big team with a pragmatic manager for a while in this league. And the last one was probably Conte at Chelsea, and he won the league with flying colours over there. He really did. So, look, like I said before, 2 losses until March, which is a very extended period of time, is the proof in the pudding for me.
2 losses in 17 games. It's been 2 losses in 17. I counted it up today.
Yeah, exactly.
We could have won those 15 or drawn those 15 games playing slightly better football.
Yeah.
There's something to be.
But the fact is that we're getting points by not even playing that great football. Yeah. We've got so much of a scope to improve, and I genuinely believe we can do that, and we will do that.
Yeah.
See, last season, just quickly, just to round it off, last season, we had a good run from February to the end of the season. We played Kane, Son, and Kulu. Everyone knew their roles. We were on a high, and we ended up playing good football towards the end of the season. But from when Conte came in up until February, until we could bring in Kulu and Bentancur, the football was also dross. It was not great to watch. But the point is, and it was the same at Chelsea when he first went in there, wasn't great, but towards the end of the season, Chelsea were playing attacking football. This will take time. Just give it time. There's 6 new signings that he has to filter in this season that he didn't have to do last season. And once he works out the mechanisms of it, I'm telling you now, we will be flying after Christmas. We will be smacking teams again.
I mean, I will say you might call it negative winning a Premier League with Robert Huth, Wes Morgan, and Christian Fuchs. I thought there was a certain beauty in it. If you ask me, there's a certain beauty in it. THFC till I die. Speaking of trophies, he's thrown in a super sticker yet again up the little guy with the trophies as well. And he's just keeping the faith, Dermot is. And I figured as well, on top of that really generous donation, he's throwing in another one. And maybe we'll just get straight to it. He says, we need to trust what Conte doing. We need to trust what Conte is doing. He is a winner. He knows how to take a team over that line. It will click if we piss him off, he will go. What back to Nuno? We can't keep moaning when he said it will take 3 windows, and we could certainly go back to Nuno, as like David has warned before. I feel like we have to be careful what we wish for. But yeah, I mean, Dave, any responses to Dermot here?
No, it'll be Fonseca next. It'll be one off the list that we had previously. It's not going to get better after Conte. And you can guarantee, even if we play attacking football, we leak goals at the back. Right now, Conte brings a balance, is what I would say.
Yeah. And I think, it's there is sort of a problem with the fact that maybe what we said about Jose, were we taking him over when he maybe started sort of maybe falling off a bit. There is sort of that sort of debate still out there, despite him winning the Conference League right after leaving us. I think with Antonio Conte, we more or less kind of got him still in his prime. He was still out there winning in the Serie A, basically dominating that league, fresh off his still not too long ago, his league win in Chelsea as well. I just feel like we've taken a manager who, in my opinion, at least, Dermot, certainly isn't outdated and has shown recent success. And I feel like we need to keep the faith in that. But I think there is sort of an answer to maybe why there's the frustrations with what Sean said, and the fact that now we're starting to maybe get a bit used to Conte. We're about a year into it. We're starting to see kind of similar patterns to how the team plays and whatnot. So probably we're getting a bit complacent now. But big up, Dermot. And certainly people maybe are forgetting about the very dark days of the Garden Gnome, and that is Nuno. Hopefully he still has a bit of money left with some of that severance pay that we gave him. Pick up, Dermot. Pick yourself up, my man.
Jack, just real quick, like, just for what it's worth, as someone that's like, I think I am probably more I'm with you guys and everything you're saying. Right? I'm with the patience and everything else. But the style of football is not the only reason that I'm a little bit like hesitant to be as gangbuster bullish on Conte as you guys are. I also think that, and I know we're not talking about it that much. Maybe it's not part of the topic tonight. So if it is, I'll stop. If it isn't, I'll just make it very brief. But
I'll go into it.
I think his press management is absolutely abysmal. I can't stand listening to him talk and defend some players and destroy the confidence of others. I've never been a fan of it. This isn't a new thing that I'm saying now. You know, I called this out all of last year on your channel as well.
Yeah. I still disagree. I'll tell
Who's
you
worse though, Jose or, just for comparison's sake, Jose, Conte? Who do you think has been worse?
I think Conte is. I think he speaks from his heart. I get it, but I also think he sometimes has micro agendas, and that he's trying to prove points. And because he has the reputation and the status that he does, people will go with it and won't challenge it, won't question it. But I think the way that he has spoken about Jed Spence as he's come in has been, absolutely outrageous for a young guy. I think if I was Jed Spence right now, I would be like, first of all, I hope he's got the strength of character to be able to withstand the lack of any positive comments from him at all. I also think he's been unnecessarily critical of Yves Bissouma. I think he's been unnecessarily defensive of criticism on Emerson. I think there's plenty of examples. I could go through every player of the team, and I know that I'm going to get criticism from this because Conte is Conte. But for me, I just feel like the guy, he might be a brilliant tactician. He's certainly an absolute champion and a winner. But for me, his press conferences and his ability to create momentum or narratives through the use of the media leaves a hell of a lot to be desired.
I disagree. I know Ben's nodding his head, so we'll let him in after. He probably agrees with you, Sean. But we said all of this under Conte. We questioned his man management, said it was outdated. We questioned how he used the media to try and, get something out of some of these players that weren't performing at the time, no matter whether he tried it behind closed doors. We've seen on the documentary pulling people into his office, so they'll use the media sometimes as well. These guys are very intelligent guys. They play 5D chess. There's a method to everything they do. Whether it's calling the player out in the media, no, I don't agree with what he's done to Jed Spence. I think it's a young player, maybe in my personal opinion, I think you've to handle it a little bit differently. But at the end of the day, their methods were good enough at other clubs and won them what they won. So why do they have to change it come to Tottenham Hotspur? And I will also caveat that with, I think caveat is the right word, or add to it with, look, Jose was right.
Caveat's the right word, yeah.
Jose was right. When, in hindsight, everything he said further down the line became true. Now, at the end of the day, and the players he called out, he was right on. None of them are even here at the football club anymore. So, I have no problem these managers coming in here and saying these things, because we can sit here and say it's outdated, this, that, and the other, but every other club, it's been good enough for them to win trophies and the players can handle it. Why can't these players here? And it'll probably go on to what we're talking about in a little while, mentality.
I agree with you, Dave. I agree with you, man. Some of these players need a bit of tough love. I get the whole Jed Spence situation. I get what you're saying about Emerson and stuff like that. But I know for a fact, actually, that Conte doesn't even like Emerson. And I think he's just doing that just to keep him on side a little bit. Huh?
Does he not?
He just doesn't like Emerson. He wanted him gone in the summer, but Daniel Levy and Paratici swayed him round to give him another year. But this guy won't be at us for much longer, I tell you that. I really don't think he will be. But look, I think tough love is needed. I think when Jose Mourinho was doing it, it was the right move as well. Just some of the players just couldn't handle it. And if you can't handle it, you don't have the right mentality to be at this football club. We want to be fighting up there for the biggest things. And sometimes a bit of tough love can go a long way. And if you react to it in the right way, like some players do, then you're going to see the good results. If you don't react to it in the right way, then
where's the consistency, Ben? He doesn't show any tough love to Emerson, doesn't show any tough love to Sonny, doesn't show any tough love to Richarlison, doesn't give any criticism of Harry Kane. There's zero consistency. There's some players that at best don't even get a mention, and at worst get thrown under the bus, who are youngsters that are trying to forge a career. And there's other players that have performed abjectly and objectively poor, not only relative to their standards from last season, but just flat out poor. And they never get a harsh word said against them. If you're going to be a tough love master, be consistent. allocate it across the team, not just to individual. Otherwise, it comes across as singling people out, and that can create negative energy in the dressing room, in my opinion.
First of all, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So he might be showing tough love to certain players behind the scenes that he's not doing in the press. So you've got to say that first and foremost. And second of all, different players as well need different nurturing and different ways to bring them through into their top form. So I don't think that you can, look at Dele Alli, for instance. How much did Jose try tough love with him? That didn't work. I think certain players you need to act in different ways with. And I think with the Jed Spence thing, I don't agree with Conte on it, and I think he should be given a go. But that's by the by. But I think that certain players that he has been showing tough love with, like Bissouma. Bissouma's never played in the middle two before, and he's always played in the middle three. So when he's saying he's not tactically ready, maybe that's just the facts of the matter.
Matt Doherty, the guy who was, I know Dave hates him, but on Monday, the guy came out, Conte said, "I'm not stupid. I don't want to lose," in response to why isn't Matt Doherty getting ready?
Isn't that also, Sean, just to push back, isn't that also because he's been asked about that? He's been asked that question about 1,000 times. So at a certain stage, it's like you've been asked, like, are you sure you don't want ketchup on your burger? And at a certain stage, he's like, I'm not stupid. I said I don't want ketchup on my burger.
I get it.
It started to come at that stage where he started to become a bit annoyed with being asked the same question. And also maybe the way it was probably phrased made him also maybe a bit.
What I'll also say is, regardless of what approach Conte makes, the ball is always left in the player's court. Whether it's, what he done to Matt Doherty, it's now a Matt Doherty's court. You either put your head, knuckle down, and prove to Conte why you deserve to be at Tottenham, or you're out the door. But also, if he does it nicely in the office, butters them up and tells them how great they are, the ball's still in their court, whether they use that and go on and prove Conte that he was right with all the affection he's given them, or whether, they don't go out and perform. So no matter what way he approaches it, the ball is always left in the player's court at the end of the day.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that, yes, you could make the argument to say Conte knows the players and he knows how to get the best out of him. But that is a supposition, a hypothesis that is assuming that Conte is some absolute man management genius, right? That understands the intricacies of.
You don't win trophies if you can't man manage.
Of 25 different squad members, 7 of them have only been in the team for 5 minutes, or in the squad for 5 minutes. And then when you go and look at and say, oh, he's in the last season, he said that Eric Dyer could be one of the world's best centre backs. Davinson Sanchez can be one of the world's best centre backs. And then turns around and says, I don't want to lose when talking about Matt Doherty. Or to me, you either have faith that this guy is like somehow some sort of absolute oracle in working out the minds of men, or it could also be perceived as, if he's human and just happens to play favourites, that he's willing to throw some people under the bus and willing to praise unnecessarily for other people, because Matt Doherty isn't necessarily the worst thing that's since sliced bread. And Davinson Sanchez is not going to be the world's best centre-back anytime soon.
They didn't ask Conte about his thoughts on Doherty's beard. They never asked Conte's thoughts on Doherty's beard change. So maybe they actually realized that was the reason Doherty isn't being praised. He just can't stand the look of him. And he's playing a lot of golf with Harry Kane, which maybe Conte doesn't like. Maybe Conte would rather be playing golf with Harry Kane. He doesn't like that Doherty has taken that spot next to Harry Kane on the tee box. But sorry, Ben, I interrupted you.
No, what I was saying is that the thing about Matt Doherty, I think it's a fitness thing. I genuinely think it's a fitness thing, because he was Conte's go-to guy before he got injured. He was playing really well. Conte was loving Matt Doherty up until he got injured. He got a really, really bad injury. And he's probably saying that in talking about his fitness. Like, why would he start him if he's not fully there yet?
Maybe he's not even convinced by the efforts Matt Doherty has been making to get back from injury. Perhaps also sometimes the effort someone makes to recover from injury, the coach can see firsthand, and maybe it's not really been that convincing. As much as I made that golf joke just to be funny, perhaps a bit too much golf for Matt Doherty, not enough physical therapy. Who knows? Moondog saying, I think a draw was not a bad result, certainly for the Europa League winners away from home. I mean, Ben, maybe tell us about that environment. I bet was absolutely nuts. Was the I know it's different from a North London derby, but considering the North London derby was also a very toxic and very loud atmosphere, for the Spurs players to then go to that sort of Eintracht Frankfurt atmosphere, kind of a tough transition, you would imagine.
Yeah, I would think so. I think the Frankfurt fans were way louder than the Arsenal fans. That's
Really?
for sure.
Wow. Just trying to
Really,
give the
way
library some
louder.
credit. I guess no need.
No, definitely not. And I think that it was a brilliant atmosphere that they put on. It was very intimidating. I mean, they made us walk through a forest to get there with a police escort. And on the way back, it was completely pitch black forest that they made us walk through. It was very intimidating. And you've got to give credit for the players to play the way that they played in that intense pressure. And we should have won that game. We really should.
There you go. Not a bad result at all. And we definitely should have won it, says Ben. So there you are, Moondog. Another super chat here from Crocodog saying, I have a theory. We have seemed pretty lethargic whilst other teams are more intense. I think we'll find that more intense, sexy football teams will suffer more this October with a schedule with this sort of schedule than us. I mean, there is something to be said. What are we playing, lads? Like every 3 games or every 3 days on average by the looks of things? Perhaps it's hard to know, though, because I wouldn't know myself. Is exerting yourself with that sort of, high line, very progressive football where you're constantly trying to win the ball back and dominate games, is that start to get a bit taxing, over a month? Or does maybe sitting behind the ball being a bit more of a counterattacking side, does that get a bit taxing over the months? I can't really speak to it, but if anyone has a quick answer for Crocodiles, I would appreciate it, because I think that's what he's basically thinking, is that progressive high line football does get a bit, sort of tiring towards, after a bit of time.
Both of them will be taxing, both in different ways. The pressing game, the gung ho is more physically taxing, but the way we play is more mentally taxing, I would say, because you have to stay switched on while watching the opposition move the ball around you. So there's 2 different sort of taxations, but the physicality or the intensity of the teams that are pressing and stuff like that, that will wear off. Maybe not Man City, because they'll just play us like for like, so that won't. But other teams, that will actually wear off, and you'll see some of the results maybe dip. They'll have to also do a hell of a lot more rotation, whereas the way we play, we wouldn't have to do anywhere near as much rotation, in my opinion. But I think it's a good theory by Crocodile.
Sound theory from Crocodile already. There you go, Crocodile. Sound theory from Dave. Got the approval there. Really appreciate support as well. Mia W, absolutely loving the comments in the chat. Mia says, end of the day, winning is winning. If we win something, I want to see if all these fans still moan about the style of play, then give your head a wobble. It's become her own catchphrase, it feels like at this stage, Mia. Give your head a wobble. She wants to see the trophy. She doesn't care how it's done. No nonsense. That's all. She just wants the trophies through the door. She's tired of waiting, and she wants the man who's proven to win it to be given the time and to be given the patience, to be given the assurance. Big up.
Sean, what would you say to that? Because she's saying, you're not 100% happy with the style of play. And I think, look, me and Ben agree with you. We could be doing it a bit more efficiently, a bit more better. But would you still moan about the style of play even if it delivered a trophy? I know I wouldn't. I'm not even asking. I'm not even embarrassing Ben with that question.
No, I wouldn't. But I would also caveat my answer by saying I think that this season will be one of the hardest seasons ever, despite how far Tottenham have progressed in the last 18 months and over the last 20 years generally. I know we've come back a little step from 2018, but we're back on the march forward. But I don't think it's ever been as difficult than it is right now to win a trophy. If you want to win a trophy this year, you have to overcome Manchester City. And Manchester City won the Premier League title last year comfortably without Erling Haaland and without Julian Alvarez. Even if Erling Haaland goes down injured, they've got another absolute worldie right behind it to play in that same position. So I just think that I'm just being realistic. I know it might sound pessimistic, but I'm being realistic. I think everybody who's saying, like, rattling the saber around it's now or never to win a trophy, I think that in reality, it's harder than ever to win a trophy right now. And so, to answer your question, Mia, 100%. If we somehow find a way to figure it out to lift the trophy, of course, all bets are off. All questions are answered. It's back. The glory days are back. But in all likelihood, I don't think that's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, then I would rather come second, third, or fourth in the Premier League and get to semi-finals of the cups, on any cup, whichever cup you pick, playing better football than we're playing.
Yeah. You're right, Sean. But the same goes for any club in the Premier League, doesn't it? It goes for Liverpool, goes for Arsenal, goes for Man United, goes for Chelsea, goes for everyone.
Of course.
So, I mean, are City really going to win the quadruple and do the clean sweep this year?
Maybe.
Surely they're going to leave a few scraps for the rest of us.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe
I'm
not.
not sure right now.
But big up Mia W. All I can say is after I've been hearing that catchphrase from her is every single day, brush the teeth, have a nice glass of water, give the head a wobble, start my day. That's how I've been going about it. Big up DB. Good management is knowing who you can push, who you can criticize, stick and carrot where required. And we have to assume he knows what to use and on who. It just feels like, we're allowed to still vouch for some, maybe obvious solutions that might be in front of his eyes. And I think that's also what Sean's been kind of saying is that, there are some potential solutions that Conte could use that he's just maybe been a bit reluctant to use at this moment. Conte's style of play requires a big up lazy. Conte's style of play requires discipline by players to follow his instructions. I think the players that get called out don't follow those instructions. The ones that get a pass do, despite them playing well or not. I've heard this theory before that Conte is very, elementary, very rudimentary with sort of like how he wants his passing patterns to go, how he wants his teams to build out from the back, etc. He doesn't really want a lot of, sort of a loose interpretation or creativity in there. He does like his players to play the type of patterns and whatnot that he instructs. And when they do kind of maybe divert from that, he does get a bit, let's say, he doesn't maybe favor that player as much. He likes the good students. He maybe likes the teachers' pets by the looks of it. So the Højbjergs and maybe the Emersons of the world are perhaps more the teachers' pets. And maybe that's why they're kind of getting into the team so consistently. But anybody want to talk on that just quickly? Maybe those sort of rudimentary passing patterns and all that is something that Conte, I don't know, favors. Maybe
the passing patterns aren't working, Jack, are they, at the moment?
No, they're not. But as long as they do them, they get into the team, right, Shawnee?
Well, they're not working though. Like the passing is what's letting us down. The weight of the passing. And just before I hand it over, I've just seen Mia's rebuttal. She's saying she doesn't have any time in her life for people like me. I'm sorry, Mia. That's
I'm sorry, Mia.
that's a shame. That's a shame.
That's a bit uncool.
I still like you, Mia. Can't we be friends?
Sounds a nice guy.
Top bloke.
Big up, Mia. Hopefully you can find some time for Shawnee. He's a great lad. Another question though, lads, just to finish this up with the sort of, outdated, and it has to do with some of the modern managers that have been hired recently. Man United, Arsenal, and Chelsea have all favored younger and inexperienced managers, especially in the case of Lego Man, Harry Potter, and Eric 10 cheap suits to choose from Ten Hag. Should Spurs follow in their footsteps? Ben, do you feel like we should be, following in the likes of the other clubs' footsteps, picking these modern managers who, have suits that don't fit them and Legos to build from and Harry Potter spells to choose?
I think you know my answer on that one. I'm more than happy with Antonio Conte, and I want to see out this Antonio Conte project, and I want to see what it brings. But ultimately, where we're falling short is I don't think Conte. If you want to fight with Man City, if you want to win a trophy, we still need to add more to this squad. The right wing back's not there. We need more in defence. We probably need another midfielder in there or attacking midfielder in there as well. So until we start bringing in these kind of players and we start making the squad a bit more complete, then, I don't think we're going to go the full way Antonio Conte wants us to go at the end of the day. But Antonio Conte is the right man for us, 100%. I don't want any of these cheap knockoff Peps or cheap knockoff Klopps. You know what I mean? We've got our own Antonio Conte.
I just actually did a video on a knockoff, Klopp over at RB Salzburg. So you're not tempted by those turtleneck wearing, fashion designer kind of new modern managers at all, Ben? Not tempted at all?
Look, if Conte was to go, then I think we might have a conversation there. But right now, Conte's the man for us, and Conte's the man to take us forward.
100%.
Love it.
Can I also just
Sean, Eric 10 cheap suits Ten Hag? Is that tempting too? Should we follow in the footsteps of Man United, follow in the footsteps of Chelsea, Arsenal, etc.?
No, listen, you know what? Before we got Conte in, I was intrigued by the idea of Ten Hag. I thought it looked good, right? And I liked what I seen when I did some research on him. And then I saw him day one when he got off the plane, and the next day when he shepherded away his bouncers shepherded away a Sky Sports journalist as he was getting into a car. And at that point, I was like, this guy's got an ego and a level of arrogance that it's not going to work. And I still don't think it will work. I still think that he will. Ultimately, I don't think he'll be here for the new project for Manchester United. In 18 months' time, I think you'll see him gone. Look, at some point in the future, Conte won't be a Tottenham manager, whether it's in 6 months or 6 years. At some point, he's going to play and manage his last game for Tottenham. And when that happens, there'll be a new, the new era, whatever the new dawn is for the day for Tottenham Hotspur. And I'm quite open to having, like a Julian Nagelsmann, someone that's kind of young and dynamic and got fresh ideas. I'm always okay with those sorts of things, but it doesn't matter who the manager is or how long they stay. For me, Tottenham always comes first. And if any manager, no matter how big of a profile they come with, if they think they're bigger than the club, they're not. But I just want to, before I hand back, I just want to make sure everyone knows that I know I'm taking the role tonight of being like a little bit challenge Conte, but I am not Conte out.
I'll have you know, Sean, I have time for you. I have time.
You're like what I was there 2 weeks ago, arguing all the time.
Approximately about an hour 15 left of time for you, but I have time for you. Don't you worry.
Thanks,
but to Dave, just quickly, and I know it's kind of like Ben, probably kind of insulting your intelligence here, but do you want one of those fancy new modern managers? They do come with the turtlenecks, Dave. They come with the nice outfits, the fresh
jeans.
new modern ideas, the high back lines and all that sort of good stuff. Do you want somebody like that? Are you tempted by what maybe Chelsea and Man United have been doing?
No, look, some people were telling me last season, Nagelsmann, he wears skinny jeans, he's new, he's modern. I mean, I could put my hair in a quiff and go and buy skinny jeans and pass off as a manager nowadays. It's absolutely ridiculous. Look, for me, Jack, I just want an elite manager at this football club that I believe can deliver me trophies no matter the style of play. I don't care. I just want someone here to deliver trophies. For me, I like trophies. I want to win. That's what I go into every season. That's my aim. That's my wish. That's my belief. And I know Sean is going to disagree with me. And I've had this conversation loads of times. But for me, football is about winning things. That's what I was brought up on. And I just want. I don't care who it is, as long as they're an elite manager that can deliver me what I want, or I believe they can deliver me what I want.
Even if it means playing the most boring football. I'm not saying that we are playing the most boring football, but would you be happy to play a system in a hypothetical scenario?
Do you know what, Sean? In a perverse way, I'd probably almost enjoy it more, knowing that we don't deserve it, but we've done everybody over. Kind of gives me even more of a satisfaction, if I'm being honest, in a sick way. But of course, I'd probably get more bladdered and enjoy it a lot more if we were playing nice, sexy football. But look, I don't care. I'd be happy either or. I just want to celebrate a fucking trophy.
And so do I. I just don't believe that winning a trophy. I don't believe that we're entitled to a trophy because we've gone so long without one, and because we used to win them more plentiful and more frequently than we used to. And I think that now, as I said earlier, I think it's harder than ever. And so in a scenario which I foresee happening where Tottenham don't win a trophy, I'd rather see us play good football.
Fair. And I want to apologize.
You take Pochettino back then?
Well, no, right this second? No.
Never as
right this second, no. But if Conte decides to walk out the door in February or in August or whatever else, and Pochettino was available, I would listen to the conversation. But to be honest, I'm not necessarily. It depends who else is on the shortlist, right?
If you don't think that we can win a trophy and we are playing this kind of football, then why not just take one of those sexy managers now?
It's a good question.
If I don't think we can win a trophy, well, I'd like to see how the season pans out first.
Fair. And I just want to apologize to everybody for giving them an image of me in skinny jeans. I know it's not the prettiest.
Whatever it takes to become the modern manager these days, Dave, you're going to have to find a way. Adrian,
Dave, just fit into them and that's it. You got the job.
I'd have to get a bouncy castle to get into them, lad.
But I've got to say, before Jack carries on, that was a very clever question that was trying to convince me, trying to twist my arm into being Conte out all of a sudden. And I'm not going to do it, bro.
Well done.
I'm not trying to twist your arm. I'm just going with what you say.
He's a pro. Adrian Chia, big up, lads. Great job clipping Dave's rant from yesterday. Don't you worry, Adrian. A few more of those will be coming out these days. And really glad that you did appreciate it, Adrian. And it seemed like a lot of people did. And no matter if they disagreed with it or agreed with it, I think it's just great content that's being put out there. Appreciate you, Adrian. Absolute legend. Quick question for Ben here. Are we, since you're both regulars at the stadium,
a question for my brother. I think he's on the wrong channel.
I'm gonna have to phone him up, maybe. Yeah, phone a friend for this question. But what are your thoughts? Maybe how are the people in the stadium kind of responding to the results in this type of football?
I think of late it hasn't been great. Obviously, against Arsenal, there are a lot of angry fans in the stands. Against Frankfurt as well, there were a lot of people that weren't happy with the style of play, which I didn't really get. I think it's a lot. I think when the results are going our way, I don't see any mumbles and groans. But when results start going against us straight away, people are on it. Oh, the style of football, this, that. But the Spurs fans need to all come together. We've got Antonio Conte in the team. We've got some world-class players in the team. We all need to come together as one fan base and just start going in the same direction. I've had enough of this constant moaning, this constant division. We're all Spurs at the end of the day. We all want the same thing. We all want us to win trophies. We all want us to do well. And we've got a manager that can deliver that for us. So let's all just stick by him and see where it goes.
I know I shouldn't really be speaking to match day fans either, but because I where I live, I don't get to go regularly. But it's the same tactics and the same style of play that gave you that West Ham get battered everywhere they go after a game. It's the same one after Arsenal last season in North London Derby, where you probably had some of the most memorable moments at home in years. So, you know, I would say, look, let's just relax a little. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
Big up, DB. Sebas, well, the only way I see us getting a trophy this season is if we get reinforcements in January. If not, we'll only get top 4 at the most. At this stage, it feels like top 4 was weirdly more achievable than maybe we thought in the beginning of the season, just because the likes of Liverpool and Chelsea are really struggling at the moment, Sebas. But trophies, he's saying, is maybe not doable, or at least not achievable this season, unless maybe some investment is brought in January. And to be fair, that January period is where maybe a contract could be extended with the likes of Conte. It's going to be a very delicate month, I must say, Sebas, because a bit of investment certainly would probably convince Conte that Spurs are still showing the faith in him. And also, he has at least alluded to the fact that he isn't at least too worried about the extension of the contract. But then again, when is it ever going to happen? Will it ever happen? Is definitely a big question to be asked. And I think January, how maybe Enoch and Levy as well as Paratici handle the month of January certainly could give us some hints as to maybe Conte's sort of satisfaction or at least his content with the future of Spurs. But
Jack, could I ask you a quick question just directly on
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely.
Quick fire. I know that obviously it's not about how much you spend, it's about picking the right players, but the right players do come with a certain spend. So quick ballpark figure, how much money do you think it would take roughly to be able to identify and acquire players that could close the gap sufficiently in January?
It's hard to know, Sean, because I think with last season, what did we probably spend? I guess we technically didn't really spend the money yet on Kulusevski, so we really only spent 20 million straight up on the likes of Bentancur. I would imagine Spurs wouldn't really spend more than 40 or 50 million in a January window. Not really many clubs do spend more than that at all anyway. So if we wanted to bring in a right wing back and a center back, like a lot of people want, perhaps a creative midfielder as well. I mean, you're probably allocating 5 to 10 million for each of those. You're going to have to be pretty smart, and you're probably going to have to be watching a bit of Flat Cap Euro Talk, is what I would say, because that is my speciality. Everybody, the nice, cheap sort of players with a lot of value is what I would say. A lot of value.
With the Vitch at the end.
What is it? Diamonds in the rough is essentially the purpose of my channel. Diamonds in the rough. And if you only have 30 million to work with, definitely check out that channel, Sebas. But Dave, anything to say to Sean's question there?
No, I just have a point to make. I think you answered it. Look, for me, I think whether you think the window last January was good or bad, at the end of the day, it had an impact on the squad, and I think everybody can agree on that. So the proof is in the pudding. Going in January and picking up what you need, what it can do, and how much it can help your team. Hopefully, they don't ignore what they done last January and decide not to go again this January. They have to. They have to. The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
I'm full of analogies tonight. I'm on fire, Jacko. I need to drink more.
Big up, Sebas. Hopefully you're keeping well, mate, and keep up the workouts, man. I'm absolutely loving following the progress. Pick yourself up, Sebas. Moondog, I love you, Sean. Don't worry, mate.
Love you too, my man. Love you too.
He's making some enemies, Sean is, by being the brave devil's advocate today. Hopefully he wins them back over, Moondog. Pick up, my man. Brad Matthews with one. Good evening, gentlemen. I have a £10 bet that Richarlison will score 6 or more goals in the Premier League this season. Easy money, yes or no? Brad, so generous of you to send this in. Honestly, an easy question that I would just probably saved for the end of the show. Nice kind of sort of bonus extra time question to ask the lads to wrap up. We're going to do it here and now. Thank you very much, Brad. But easy money? What do we say, lads? Easy money for Brad?
What are the odds? I want to know the odds on that.
Yeah, how much is it worth?
The odds must be odds on. Because I had a 50
Yeah,
quid bet with Bob Spur from Bob Spur TV that he wouldn't get more than 12 goals, I think it was, in the Premier League. Yeah, and that was based on the odds, but that was based on the odds at the time, which was about even. So it must be odds on for that to be the case. And I still think that's, I don't know.
Pick what
easy
Chinese
money.
you want. Pick what Chinese you're eating.
money.
Pick the Chinese eating bread. Yeah, exactly. Perhaps you can buy Football Manager 3 times over with the winnings you'll get.
I think Bob overstretched. I think Bob going to 50 quid with Sean for 12 Richarlison goals in the league is a bit overstretched.
12 is a lot.
Yeah.
6 is. I think 6 he should absolutely be able to do. And if not,
if Bob puts in €1 between now and the end of the year, he'll have enough to pay Shawnee without it being a hit in the pocket.
It's going to the NHS either way, so it's all for a good cause. But yeah, I don't know about Richarlison. I don't think so.
Talking on
6,
odds,
though, I think 6 is doable, lads. 6 is doable.
6 is easy, but talking on odds, this is a bit like off topic. But Haaland before the season was 100 to 1 to hit 40 Premier League goals. 100 to 1.
He's now odds-on favourite for that.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, who knows? Perhaps Richarlison is just going to absolutely smash it. Then he'll come back to us maybe 2 months' time, 3 months' time, and we'll be saying, can he hit 12? And who knows? Maybe even Sean will have to be paying up to the NHS. Big up, Brad Matthews. Really appreciate it. As Oliver Freeman as well as saying, football is about scoring goals and winning. Conte's style does both. Nothing boring about that, in my opinion. And Oliver, to back you up here, I think during his days at Inter, next to Atalanta, I think one season he was the second highest scoring team. The following season, I think at Inter, he was the highest scoring team in the league. Obviously, we saw during his days so far under Spurs, especially at the back end of last season, we were creating the 3rd most chances in the league, the highest XG on average, or at least 2nd or 3rd highest. Some of the most goals scored, scoring more goals than Arsenal and the Lego Man. It just feels like perhaps maybe we have gotten a bit used to Antonio Conte, and we also are seeing maybe a bit of pragmatism, a bit of stubbornness from him, and we do want to see changes because some of the goals are not flowing in as much as they were last season. So there are questions that certainly should be asked, but I do like Ollie's comments here. Big up, Ollie.
Big up, Olatron. He's sitting outside. His daughter's over there doing some jiu-jitsu, so he's sitting outside watching us. Big up, Olatron.
Big man.
Wait, what's his name? Omicron?
Olatron. Him and Dermot like brothers.
Omicron. Very good, very good.
Question now is, lads, after maybe speaking about whether you thought Conte was outdated or what you need to change, how can Spurs get back into top gear? And really the big question is, a lot of fans see the 3-5-2 as the obvious right sort of change that can alleviate some of those problems Spurs are facing right now. But he hasn't really ever started with that 3-5-2 yet, Sean. So when will he play the 3-5-2? When will he start with the 3-5-2? Will he ever start with the 3-5-2? Just to help you out, Brighton away, Frankfurt at home, Everton at home, Man United away, perhaps any of those fixtures, maybe you could see the 3-5-2 starting with.
So I did a Tottenham walk this morning based on the idea that Eric Dyer is out injured. I don't know if he is. There's not been any obviously press conference or any confirmation, but we all saw him limping heavily. And on the presumption that maybe Eric Dyer is out, then I also just want to just take this moment because I'm talking about it to say, I know people think of me as Levy in and never criticize Daniel Levy. On this one, I think that's the fact that we don't have somebody that can come in that can replicate or improve on Eric Dyer was an absolute disastrous decision that has to fall at the feet of Paratici and the owners. It was madness to not do that. We played with fire, and if Dyer is out for any length of time, we're now feeling the consequences in the form of being burned. If Eric Dyer is out, for me, against Brighton, the argument's over. You have to go 3-5-2. You have to put 3 in the midfield for a multitude of reasons. One of them is it's easy to justify dropping one of Sonny, Kane, or Richarlison based on their performance on Tuesday. Any one of those that gets dropped can't argue with the idea of them being dropped, right? 2, if you only have 3 recognised forwards that you trust, and Brian Hill's little 10-minute cameo was, for me, paying lip service to the idea on Conte's part. He doesn't have any faith in Brian Hill. You could see by the way he was hammering his fist, all that stuff in the 10 minutes. He doesn't want him there. And when you've got injuries to key players in the same position in Decky and Lucas Moura, if you only have 3 recognised forwards, playing those 3 forwards from the start means you have no plan B to go to. C, Brighton, I know they're under a new manager and time will tell how that plays out. But against Liverpool, away from home, Trossard absolutely dominated. He was only the third person ever to get a hat-trick at Anfield behind Andre Arshavin and Peter Unluv, for those people that can remember him, which is insane, right?
That is crazy.
And Brighton dominate the midfield. If you give them the midfield, they will run at you and cause your defense a horrible, horrible afternoon. And if our defense has to experiment, which is the fourth reason, if Eric Dyer is out, there is going to be somebody playing in the midfield in the middle of the three that shouldn't be there naturally. Whether it's Longley, whether it's Romero, whether it's Sanchez, whoever it is, we are experimenting with a new back three, and on that basis, we need to protect it, and that is why we absolutely have to have some version of the four midfielders, three of them on the pitch against Brighton. So for me, 100%, if I see 3-4-3 against Brighton and Eric Dyer isn't in the team, I'll be on Ben's pump up show. You know, I'll lose my shit.
But also, I completely agree with you, Sean. Everything you've just said, I think is absolutely spot on. But to further that on as well is like, well, now Kulusevski is out. It's such a good opportunity for us to try it out. To stick Sonny and Kane up top, have an option off the bench with Richarlison, and stick three in the middle and see how we go. And I think it's the perfect time, literally.
This is why we're asking this question, Ben. And the way I phrased it is, I agree with you. We have seen opportunities where it did make sense with the lack of forwards because of injuries. Also, the fact that we have maybe more depth in midfield because of those injuries to the forwards. Why haven't we seen the 3-5-2 yet? Will we ever see the 3-5-2? Considering that there have been maybe some good opportunities.
Weekend, people.
Will it take a fellow compatriot, a fellow Italian, to bring the 3-5-2 out of him? A fellow Italian will bring the 3-5-2 out of him, and De Zerbi.
Yeah, I think. I think that it's the way to play this game this weekend. Match up Brighton man for man, and we'll beat them. I think we can beat them, but as well, it's something that we need to watch out for. Obviously, Gian Piero Ventroni really tragically passed away today. Yeah. Tragic. And I know Conte was very close to him. Paratici was very close to him. And God knows how this is going to... Yeah, the players were too. You've seen the floods of, stuff coming out from Sonny, Richarlison, Kane, all of them. Yeah. And I don't know how this is going to affect our... preparation and the build up to this game.
You hope you're going to see a reaction, right? You hope they're going to do like 95 minutes, and a tribute to him.
Some things are bigger than football, aren't they? And this is definitely one of them. One of them. So I just want to say rest in peace to Ventroni, because he was massive in the pre-season. He's obviously been key to Conte for many, many years. And Conte's been really cut up about it today. I know that for a fact.
He was massive for top four as well. He came in and got a squad that hadn't been fit in 2 seasons plus and got them fit. It was a massive reason why we ended up having that run from February to the end of the season, because the fitness paid off. So I forgot to say that at the start, actually. But yeah, condolences to his family and that. I was good. A lot of players were fond of him. Harry Kane was very fond of him. And
Ali Gold spoke about how actually the players all had a really big fondness for him and kind of had a special relationship with him in their own right. And Richarlison put out a really long post about it and was actually quite heartfelt, very personal, as you could tell. So with the time that he's been here, I mean, he's clearly made a huge impact with the time that he's been here on the players and as well as on the coaching staff and the club in general. So may you rest in peace, and then thoughts and condolences to the family, but also just insane how much of an impact he's also made in such a short time with the players and just the club in general. Well said. Well said.
I just want to address that comment. I brought it up here. DB, on the pump up, people are entitled to say what they want when they want. There's no gag. People aren't happy with the lineup, they can call it out. If people are happy with the lineup, you can sit there and say it. There's no gag whatsoever, my man. In fact, Ben and Sim have nothing to do with it whatsoever. It's myself and Shawnee this season that do all the questions, the talking points, and everything else like that. So I think you've got that one a bit mistaken, my man. Big up, DB.
No, that was because I think it was on the afterwards. DB reached out to me and said that I flip flopped and I went from being super critical of the starting formation, and then about halfway through I went, okay, let's find the positives. And DB was saying you shouldn't have, you don't need to feel flip. And I just said, it's a pump up show. We need to end the show as positive as I can. But DB, it's nothing to do with instruction. It's just, me interpreting the point of the program. That's all.
Yeah, and look, and the whole point of it is to get people up for the game, isn't it? Anyway, so so it is what it is. Look, you can be unhappy, but still try and find positives in things and try and get people up for the game. So you got a bit of give and take here.
Definitely. A question on how to get Spurs back into top gear, lads, and I'll give it to Dave this time. Can Conte make any tweaks? Because he has persisted with that 3-4-3. We have gotten some confidence from the likes of Ben here, Dave, that the 3-5-2 is coming soon. But if he does persist, if he does persist with a 3-4-3, though, Dave, is there maybe some tweaks that he can make to it? Perhaps some improvements, some slight adjustments that could be made to that 3-4-3 to make it slightly more effective?
I think he can instruct them to press a bit higher up the field, or maybe
the
line of engagement maybe a bit higher. I'm not saying completely full press, although we've done it against Frankfurt. I think if you do it against some of the Premier League teams, you probably will get punished a bit more. They didn't really have too much going forward, but the line of engagement where we engage the opposition, it doesn't have to be on the edge of our box. We can actually do that a little bit higher up the field. I think that's definitely something we can do there. Look, I think the personality selects for it, as much as people don't like it. I would like to see Spence, but at the moment, I've seen Doherty. Emerson is much better than Doherty. Langley, Romero, Dyer, I can't really have too many complaints there. Perisic, Bentancur, Højbjerg in midfield until I see more from Bissouma. I'm happy with that. And then for me, I think he's got to stop persisting with Richarlison on the right or the left. The link-up play just is not there. When I wanted Richarlison in here, I wanted him in here as a backup to Harry Kane. Someone that you can also play alongside Harry Kane if you're chasing a game. Get balls out wide, get balls into the box, and get Richarlison on the end of it, like we done against Marseille. That's prime Richarlison. That's what Richarlison done at Everton. And the reason why I wanted him for the low block teams is because last season, teams stopped pressing us because of how effective our counter-attack was. So they started sitting low blocks, blocking up the middle, putting pressure on us there, and basically stopping Harry Kane from playing. So, for me, we need to get back to that first of all. And then when we do, then I think you'll see the real effects of what Richarlison can offer to this team going forward once teams start employing that against us, because they will. The minute we start clicking, they'll revert to that, what ended up working for some of the teams last season. So once that happens, I think you'll see the more benefits of Richarlison. But right now, it's the first touch. It's the one-touch stuff. It's the misplaced passes. It's the tricks and flicks he's trying to do. You look at Kulu, holds up the ball, can lay it off, under the left foot, can cross, can shoot, also runs the channels very unselfishly. Richarlison tries, but is offside an awful lot of the time. So Richarlison, if he is going to fit into this system, he has a lot of work to do. But again, that's what I was saying to fans at the time. You can call for Richarlison all you want, but the point is it could have a negative impact on the team, which I would say right now it probably has in terms of what Kulu offers us. So I think we've got to persist with Kane, Son, and Kulu when Kulu's back until Richarlison proves or works on his game and gets more up to speed. And again, just a higher engagement of where we engage the opposition.
Okay. I mean, Ben, what are your thoughts? Is Kulusevski kind of the one that secretly makes that 3-4-3 click a bit better? Is that maybe the reasons why some of the 3-4-3 patterns haven't gone as well as Kulusevski is that sort of guy that makes it all happen sometimes?
Yeah, and you saw that exactly when he came into the team when we first signed him at the back end of January.
True.
As soon as he came in, you saw the front three. It kind of like made front three kind of come alive, didn't it? And like I said, against Arsenal, I mean, we missed Kulusevski massively because that pass in the final third just wasn't there. I mean, I didn't know what was going on against Arsenal really, because Kane seemed to be the furthest guy forward and Sonny was dropped a bit, and I didn't really understand why that was happening. And I think if Kane was the one that was dropping back and Sonny was the one pushing on, I think it could have worked. But Kulusevski is so vital to that formation. He really is. And to be honest, though, the way I look at things is that I'm starting to question, like, will we ever see a Conte team in proper full flight until we get proper wing backs in? Because we rely so heavily on wing backs, and right now our starting wing backs are Perisic and Emerson, right? And we all know where we all know where Emerson's flaws are going forward, right? Perisic is great going forward, not so great defensively. Emerson is
I don't think Perisic is that great going forward.
You don't think so?
No, I think he's good going forward. I think he's got zero pace. I think he runs at like a canter, not at a gallop. And I know he's old. I know he's getting on. And whenever he does stretch his legs, he's always hurt. He's always putting his calf on ice afterwards, which is a concern. And I think his crossing is superb, and his set pieces, being able to, all that stuff with Villa is brilliant. So I'm not like, throwing the baby out with the bathwater with that comment. I just think that his shooting is he's got a bit of a headless.
Not getting the goals, really.
Not getting the goals.
I think we've only seen a small sample size of yet with Perisic, and you've got to remember it's his first 8 games in English football, Premier League football. So you got to give the guy a bit of time. I mean, he's shown that he is a top class wing back. He's shown that everywhere.
But I also think he's absolutely awful defensively. I think he has been bad defensively.
He has been. But what I'm trying to say is that in Conte's team, the wing backs are partnerships. They work together. When one goes to the back post, the other one is crossing it. You know what I mean? They're working together. One is coming into midfield to really help out when the other team gets overloaded in midfield. And we saw that last season with Doherty coming into the midfield and really helping out the team when he was playing at right wing back. So until we get two proper right and left wing backs that can work together, that are of the similar quality, then I don't know if we're ever going to see this Conte system in full flight mode. I really don't.
Unless maybe like what Seba said, perhaps some additions in January maybe could help. But yeah, sorry, Sean.
Oh, just to finish off the point, I guess, about Decky, do you guys, for me, I think that if we were to go to a 3-5-2, even in the games where you need to have the three midfielders, Basuma or Skip, and then Højbjerg and Bentancur, and then against a tougher opposition, you can do that. But against the opposition where you can go for it, I would also like to see, as much as Decky is very good on the right relative to Richarlison, comparative to Richarlison, I actually think that Decky would be fantastic in the 10. And I'd like to see it. Yeah. I really would like to see that.
He even considers himself a 10 to back you up there, Sean. So absolutely right. Adrian Chia with a super chat. Holland and the Filth are doing well, which makes fans doubt Conte. And
I agree with this so much. I agree with this so much. And I was actually saying to someone the other day, do you think that if Arsenal weren't doing so well this season, that Spurs fans would be as unhappy as they are right now? Because I don't think they would. And I think if Arsenal were doing their usual thing, we're having a really poor start to the season, Spurs had the start of the season that we've had now, I think Spurs fans would be on top of the world.
I think you're spot on there,
Good
Ben.
point. Good point. Yeah,
I think you're spot on. I find it that it feels like I've never really seen before. Then again, when have we been in this sort of position where we are kind of complaining about being in a third place position with only really two defeats so far in the season in total? It is something to be said there. But I think the reason why it's kind of so divided is because we are so close to the likes of the Scum. The Scum are playing pretty well, and they are playing a brand of football that some people might admit are probably a bit jealous of over there. And to see it working for them, it just gets people, I agree, a bit tense, maybe a bit rattled. Perhaps, Ben, I agree with you. If they were sitting mid-table, if they were sitting 8th or 9th, or like kind of where West Ham are right now, I agree with you. Maybe it would be a different scenario. It wouldn't be as tense, maybe.
I also agree with him on the Haaland part as well. I think if Haaland wasn't doing what he's doing, like the guy's on course to probably hit about 50 goals this season. If he wasn't doing what he's doing, people would be praising Harry Kane's start to the season, but it's gone completely unnoticed with some of the goals he scored, purely because Haaland's doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Big up, Adrian. I think you're probably right. Think of spot on theory. A lot of spot on theories today by the Harris Army. Moondog, don't do the bet, Brad. I lost about 20 grand.
I hope it wasn't that much, mate. Jesus Christ.
You got to keep the faith in Richie, though, Moondog. You got to keep the faith in Richie. It's okay to lose the faith in Moon Boots, but you got to keep the faith in Richie. I mean, Dave, tell Brad it's okay. Don't let Moondog dissuade Brad here. Don't tell Brad. Keep the faith.
Oh, Brad, it's a start. It's a start, my man. Get that chicken curry on order. It's a start.
6 goals. You reckon 6 goals is a cert, do you?
Oh yeah, of course it is. Yeah, he'll get that.
Easy money.
Easy money. That 10 everything.
I'll have a 10. I'll have a 10 with you right now that he doesn't get 7 goals.
Okay.
No, Moondog might too. Moondog might get in here.
Oh,
you never
6
know.
goals. Sorry, I thought it was more than 6. 6 goals. 6 Premier League goals.
Yeah, I'll
Premier
take that
League
bet.
goals.
Okay,
I'll take that bet.
I'll do it. Yeah, even though it's I'm sure the odds aren't in my favor on this one. I'll take it.
Cheers,
But obviously, everyone, please gamble aware and bet safely, please.
Moondog especially.
I love a bet. It's just so much fun having a bet.
Moondog is trying to make Brad Matthews gamble aware. He's trying to make Brad Matthews gamble aware, especially when it comes to betting on Spurs players. Big up, Moondog. Really appreciate it as well, man. Absolute legend. Absolutely love it. And then another really generous one here from DB saying contribution towards Sean's broadband. So he can do more live streams.
Has it been? It's been consistent, has it today? Yeah.
No bother.
It's gorgeous.
It seems to work when I'm on other people's streams, but whenever I do my own, I don't know what's going on. It just goes and it just falls apart.
I think everybody must have tweeted Sky to make sure that it was kept all right for today, because we know they get onto myself and Jack when we do, because last season we didn't do this show and they were getting onto me and Jack about it. They were like, "We want the All-Star panel, roll it out again, Dave." So but so they must have got onto Sky today to tell them to make sure it's all good.
Nice. Cheers, DB.
He also was agreeing, though, to an extent with Gary Neville, who works for Sean's internet provider, DB. So I'm actually quite surprised they're putting him down like this. And hopefully this will help. But pick up, DB. Really appreciate it, my man. Really generous as well, brother. And appreciate all your comments throughout the show as well, DB. Great comments, my man. But lads, time to talk about Hugo. Hugo, he's been a bit susceptible to some mistakes this season. In fact, Lloris has made 21 errors leading to goals in his 344 Premier League appearances in his career. And 11 of those 21 errors have come against the big six teams, or the traditional big six, should we say. Why does Hugo make errors in the big games? I'm going to go to Ben here. Why does he make the errors in the big games in your eyes? Or does he at all?
I can't tell you why he makes them in the big games, but I'm just sick and tired of people coming out and trying to slate Hugo every time he makes a mistake. I mean, all keepers make mistakes. Ederson makes mistakes. Alisson makes mistakes. And people talking about them like they're the holy grail of goalkeepers and nobody can be better than Alisson or Ederson. They make so many mistakes. Look at the Chelsea keeper, Mendy. How many mistakes has he made this season? I mean, just it's the nature of goalkeepers, right? They make mistakes. I mean, all goalkeepers make mistakes. So I'm just sick and tired of this.
They're punished.
Exactly. And it gets highlighted more than any other position on the pitch. So I'm sick and tired of the narrative forming on Hugo Lloris. I mean, he saves us way more than he costs us. He's still a top-class, world-class goalkeeper. And I'm not hearing a bad word against him, to be honest.
Is there something to be said about how half of those errors, more than half of those errors, have come against the big six teams, though? Is there something alarming about that? Or do you not really care at all by the looks of it? Like, it's not really a stat that you don't want to pay attention to, or you don't really seem to think it's
I mean, it's a hard one to read into. Like, why do these mistakes happen in big games? How many big games? How many
11
goals?
of 21. So he's made 21, you could say, goalkeeping errors in his career. In 344 games, he's made 21 errors. 11 of those 21, so more than half, have come against traditional big six teams or top six teams.
More than half. That's a bit of a stretch, though. Like, I think that
51%. The majority of the time, it's against.
You see, I have a way with words there, Ben. You see, I have a way with words.
I'm not reading into that at all. I'm really not. Everyone needs to back Hugo Lloris, man. The guy has proved it year on, year out, how much of a world-class goalkeeper he is. And every time he makes a mistake, everyone comes in and berates him. Nobody gets a harder rap than Hugo Lloris when they make a mistake. No goalkeeper. And I don't understand why that is. I really don't. Hugo Lloris is a world-class goalkeeper.
It doesn't cost. Like, if you're Harry Kane or if you're Heung-min Son, in the last, I don't know, let's say Heung-min Son, just for example, not calling him out, but just as an example, as an outfield player, probably made 10 mistakes per game or 10 whatever judgment call errors in every game on average for the last 10 games of the season. But all it takes is for him, like, all that stuff. If it doesn't lead to a concession, like, they're forgotten about if he scores a goal.
No, missing a sitter is nowhere near as bad as a goalkeeper.
It's nowhere near as bad. If you're a goalkeeper, you make one mistake, it's highlighted. And I think for me, it's just the reality of the job that you can make 10 world-class saves, but if you then jump over a ball or the ball bounces over your foot, like what happened to Paul Robinson all those years ago, then even though it's not your fault, you're still going to be absolutely ridiculed and humiliated for the mistake because of the consequences of the mistake. So
I agree with you, Sean.
It comes with the territory. The one thing I would say, though, is that making mistakes, like for me, Hugo Lloris is an instinctive player. He's somebody where, for me, the more seconds he has to contemplate what to do, I'm not talking about saves necessarily, because if you watched against Frankfurt, the guy, I forget who it was, who had that shot, it was almost point blank. That snapshot, point blank. Hugo Lloris, when it's instinct for him, he finds a way to get a glove to it, and it's amazing. But when he has time to think about what he has to do, which is usually a back pass that's coming to him, trying to distribute the ball, the more seconds he has, I think the more likelihood that he has of making a mistake. He doesn't handle pressure and very well. And for me, that is a problem. Not a problem that results in me saying Hugo Lloris needs to be replaced, but it's a problem because he wears the captain's armband. Yes, and when you wear the captain's armband and you don't have the ability to communicate with your outfield team for the majority of the game, when the ball is around you at corners or when the ball is getting passed back, you have to exude confidence in everything that you do. And unfortunately, all too often, his distribution under pressure is so weak that he does the entire opposite of exuding confidence. I don't know what the cure is for it. I'm certainly not calling for Hugo Lloris to be replaced anytime soon, but for me, there is an issue. As a leader, you need to be better under pressure, and I don't think he is good enough in those.
I think there is something too to be said, Sean, about how when a forward makes a mistake. Like a good example, I think last season, if you guys recall, Dele Alli's, I thought, sitter against Liverpool, where we should have won at home. I thought that was an excellent opportunity for us to win that game, and I remember being livid with Dele Alli for missing that chance. But it feels like we actually find ourselves probably more livid with Hugo Lloris if he had made a mistake or something like that in that game, then Dele Alli, I thought, missing one of the biggest sitters of the year, one of the easiest chances I've seen a forward miss in my lifetime for Spurs. I genuinely, maybe it's just my interpretation, but I was so mad with him missing that. But it just shows how quickly we kind of forget those sort of chances. Like sitters are quickly forgotten, missed chances are quickly forgotten, goalkeeping mistakes are forever remembered. And you're probably right about that, Sean. But Dave, still the point being, though, well over half, 11 of 21 of his errors have come against the big six teams. That's well over 50% there, Dave. Any cause for concern with that? Does he crumble in the bigger games, do you think?
It is a cause for concern because whether you're going for a league title or going for one of the domestic trophies, which we're going for, you're going to come up against one of them. So for me, it's something that has to be rectified. But you could also put it, our away form hasn't been good here over the last few years. Haven't won a European away game in 2 years. Have only won one of six away games across all competitions this season. I agree with Sean. I think it comes down to a mentality thing. Your keeper can't be the most nervous in the biggest games, especially when he's captain. Your leader can't be that nervous. And is it any wonder why in maybe big games, cup finals down the years and stuff like that, maybe we haven't been able to get over the line? Because Sean's right, your leader has to exude confidence, and then that filters out to the rest of the team. Now, is there also any wonder why our backline, maybe looks nervous at times and shapes the goals the way they do? He's also supposed to be back there shouting, screaming, organising them. You look at Pickford for Everton, he's always at it. Do you see Hugo Lloris shouting at him on the football pitch? No. Now, we know from the documentary he does it in the dressing room. Is that the right place to be doing it? Yes, but you've also got to do it on the pitch as well. You have to be keeping people accountable. Sporting Lisbon is prime example. 3 players get beat, shot goes in, high-fiving them, and everything else, when he should be absolutely berating them and keeping them switched on for the corner. So the fact that he shows his more than half of his mistakes in the biggest games, it just goes to show that, as a captain, you got to take the captaincy off and going into them games so that he can just concentrate on his own games, because I've no doubt whatsoever, it does affect the team in the big games with him being nervous. Because if he's the guy you're supposed to look up to be inspired, what good is it? When a prime example, Arsenal, West Ham so far, where he just nonchalantly kicked the ball out of play in a period where we were doing well. They went and scored out of nothing and got belief in the game. Arsenal, second half, we're looking to go for the victory. He doesn't have one, but he has 2 bites of the cherry at it. He's made big mistakes in big games, and them big games are what count. Them big games are what shifts the mentality of a team throughout the course of a season. You go and beat a Man City and a Liverpool back-to-back, you're going to get so much confidence from that, and you kick on. But when you don't do it and it's mistakes from your leader that's costing you, it ultimately has a negative effect as well. But I do think it could be a part of why we haven't got over the line in previous semi-finals or finals, because we even in the World Cup final, Hugo Lloris made a mistake, only that the rest of the players managed to do enough on the field to be able to go and win it. So, and in the biggest games is where it counts. I expect him as a world-class goalkeeper. The rest of them games, I expect them to do well. But on the biggest games is where it counts as world-class goalkeeper. And unfortunately, he's let us down, which lets us down in leadership as well because he's a captain.
Well, Sean, the goalkeeper is put under a different type of microscope than the rest of the players. Completely agree with you there. Has Hugo looked a bit more rattled recently after some of the mistakes? Because I thought yesterday against Frankfurt, there were so many moments where you were like, why is he this sketchy in possession? We all know that he's not great with his feet, but it feels like he's even worse with his feet, like at least recently, because Frankfurt was actually, I thought, one of his worst displays with his feet, and he actually didn't get punished for it, which is kind of how the game works sometimes. You don't get punished for maybe committing more mistakes. But Sean, we saw him with the ball at one stage. We saw him slice it many a times. He did look actually less comfortable than he ever has with his feet against Frankfurt. And that was a game that we dominated as well. So just want your thoughts on that. Is he maybe lacking a bit of confidence right now, despite him being the captain and everything? Is he maybe lacking a bit of confidence right now, Hugo?
Yeah, I 100%. I do think he's lacking confidence. I don't know what the cure is for it, because you can't replicate
games.
Yeah, but like I think it's becoming a thing. Like if you actually if you saw against Arsenal when the ball was placed back to Hugo Lloris, the front two, Jesus, excuse me, and whoever was on the other side with it, if the ball was on the right with this Martinelli, it was a deliberate tactic to go and pressure. And you saw it against Frankfurt as well. I think it's becoming a recognizable trait that the other managers, the other coaches say, pressure the goalkeeper, pressure. And if the ball's coming down from Tottenham's left-hand side, i.e. if Longley or Perisic or whoever is putting it back to Lloris, then the left forward of the opposition team should go and pressure Romero. I think it's becoming a thing. It's pretty recognizable. And I don't think you can necessarily replicate the pressure. You can replicate the process. I'm not sure you could replicate the pressure on the training ground, because it's not the same. And so I don't know what the solution is, but I do think it's a problem. And for me, like, I hate it. One thing I can't say, even goal kicks, when I see Lloris start a goal kick and there's two centre backs like hanging around in the box, like, just stop it. Just stop doing it. It's not working. It hasn't worked. It puts unnecessary pressure. Just have a simple process of getting the ball away from the guy who can't kick it to a guy who can kick it. And if Longley's in the team, just take a simple goal kick and just act as if you're gonna go long, so that there's no pressure, and then give it to Longley or give it to Romero or give it to whoever, right? But I don't want to see Lloris messing around as often as he is given the chance to. Like, he's a goalkeeper that's not good with distribution, yet he's asked to distribute the ball far too frequently. Yeah. And to me, it's like, that to me is the solution, right? It's just stop giving him so many responsibilities with distribution. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Agree. No, I see what you're saying. And perhaps, even to bounce off of that and, pivot this towards Ben.
No, Jack, you're going to add insult to injury to Ben here. Look, he's not happy.
He's not liking this, but he's going to have to stick through it. This Hugo talk. We have to talk about Hugo, says the title. But Ben, are we seeing more mistakes because we're playing in bigger games? Do you think we're seeing more mistakes? Or are we just getting ahead of ourselves here? Is there a ratio?
Getting ahead of yourself. We're not seeing more mistakes. Look, he's not on a great run at the moment. The last couple of games has been poor in terms of distribution. The mistake against Arsenal, but every time the fan base goes up against Hugo like this, it's the same thing that happens every time. He proves everyone wrong, just like Sonny does every year when the fan base turn on him as well. So,
no, but he proves you wrong with his brilliant saves, but no one's questioning his ability to save, right? I know he made a mistake where he could have saved the ball against Arsenal, but that wasn't even a save. It was just a back pass that he jumped over. But we're not talking about his ability to save. We're talking about his ability to distribute. Like that to me is the biggest. I think that is the biggest area we're talking about, though, isn't it?
It is. Look, well, it's become so poor that it's
looking at it as a whole package kind of thing, because I think you've got to look at it as a whole package. You can't just look at small little details. But the distribution as of late in the last 2 or 3 games have been more bad than usual. Let's just put it like that.
Is that due to a lack of confidence, do you think? Just simply, can he repair that?
Yeah, he can repair it, and it's been worse than usual. So what I'm saying is, it's usually much better than what it has been in the
I
past
see.
3
Yeah,
games.
I see.
So he will revert to type. He really will revert to type. So you got to back your guy, man. Back Hugo Lloris, back the club captain. He's been here for 10 years. He's Tottenham through and through, and he's a world-class keeper. So just give him some backing.
Are we looking, maybe just as a follow-up, Ben, maybe so this one, you don't have to grimace as much with this question. It seems to you agree that, you're agreeing that Hugo is not in decline. Are maybe Spurs fans, as well as maybe myself, with some of these questions here, are we looking for evidence to say that he is declining?
Look, to say,
considering his age and everything, are we maybe looking for evidence to say that he's declining just because of that age and whatnot?
I think that when you're looking at a goalkeeper that's 35 years old, he's not as good as he was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I think that's just the facts of the matter with Hugo Lloris. But just because he's not as good as he was 2-3 years ago doesn't mean he's not still a world-class keeper, which I genuinely believe he still is. Yeah. I think that now is the time that we need to be thinking of our successor for Hugo, but that's just because of his age.
Yeah.
And I think he will be doing that. He said when he signed the contract last season, he'll be now sitting down with the club and picking out his successor for the next 10 years. And look, I've got no problems with Hugo being in the team right now. It's just people's recency bias of the last 3 games of his distribution being absolutely dog, and the mistake against Arsenal, which is in a big game. Obviously, Arsenal's a massive game, and when you make a mistake in that game, it's always going to be highlighted more than any other game. So I think people just need to be a bit more patient with Hugo Lloris. He'll get back to his what his best is now, and he'll be a top-class goalkeeper for us this season. But that still doesn't mean that we shouldn't be looking for his successor because he's 35 years of age.
Great answer. And honestly, great defense of our captain there. You have to admire a great defense of our captain. Better than the rest of us, I must admit. Well done there, Ben. But Dave, yet again, another sort of a S-house kind of question for myself here. Are you thinking about stripping Hugo of the captaincy? Are you starting to question that captaincy?
I've been saying it for a long time. I don't like goalkeepers as captain. I don't think Hugo is a good captain, to be honest with you. I don't see him being vocal enough on the pitch.
Does it really matter, though?
It does matter.
Yeah, it does matter. It does matter, yeah.
Captain
no,
does
I'm
matter.
not saying I agree captaincy matters, but does it matter actually who has the armband? Because Eric Dyer's a leader at the back.
Yeah.
Højbjerg's a leader in the middle. Harry Kane's been a club captain, or without being the club captain. So I don't really read too much into that because we've got plenty of leaders on that football pitch.
Nah, but look,
it matters.
Your captain has to be in the thick of it. He's got to be an outfield player. A keeper only sees things from a certain vantage point. It's got to be a guy that's absolutely in the thick of the action, a guy that can hold people to accountable to standards around them. And for me, a guy that also can just, when your team are going through a tough spell, that can actually have the bollocks to actually grab the game by the scruff of the neck and lead by example and get us through. Hugo Lloris can't do that from goals, in my opinion. And plus, for me, I'm old school. I want my captain has to be the most vocal. He has to be able to bollock players. Hugo Lloris is standing there high-fiving them after 3 of them being skinned, and then we can see from the result and set piece. You were the captain that bollocked them against Sporting after that. You can guarantee they would have said, okay, you little shitbag, I'll show you. And they would have went and cleared it, which is ultimately the response you want as a captain. But because we're all high-fiving, they all get caught codes because they think, oh, it's okay, Hugo's bailed us out again, but not thinking about the resulting corner. So for me, I don't like goalkeepers being captain. I think, like I said, it's got to be someone out in the thick of the action, someone that can grab the game by the scruff of the neck. I just do not like it. And as well, with Hugo's leadership, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't see him being the guy that I'd have confidence in walking into a final, that he's going to, speak to people in a way they need to be spoken to if it has to be done. Because
who is your captain?
I think Pochettino's captaincy, I'll get to that now in a sec. I think Lloris's captaincy is probably a reflection of the Pochettino era, which is all high-fiving, buddies, this, that, and the other. No one really calling each other out. It's all about being nicey-wicey to each other. Whereas now, Conte is a bit different mentality. So I think we need to keep a captain that will also reflect that. And for me, I'm going to go with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. It doesn't always have to be the best player. It just has to be a player that holds holds people around with standards. And I've seen us score goals and Pierre still go over to people in their ear talking to them. I've seen us concede goals and he's berating people. Me, I don't buy into the Eric Dyer leader thing. I think he's more bilingual. I think he helps people settle in rather than being an actual leader on the football pitch. But for me, Hugo Højbjerg is my guy. I wouldn't even suggest Kane as being captain. I still think Kane is probably a bit quiet on the football pitch. It's all well and good doing these things in the dressing room, but again, that's a reflection of Pochettino. Out there, make it look like we're together, but we'll all do it in the dressing room. But sometimes in the dressing room, it's too late. You've got to have someone in the moment that can do it, and I'm going with Højbjerg. I think he'll do it.
Man's gone for Højbjerg as his captain. The Viking, he's gone for a captain, and he's abandoned the World Cup winning Frenchman. Ben, maybe any final thoughts here on the Hugo situation? Seeing the likes of Dave stripped Hugo of the captaincy.
Look, I think that there are better candidates out there, and I think Højbjerg is probably the number one candidate there. And I completely agree with Dave when he says that Højbjerg should be captain. But what I was saying before in terms of does it matter, I wasn't saying does it matter who's actually captain. I was saying, does it matter who actually has the armband? Because in my mind, I don't know if Hugo's actually captain or if he's just got the armband out of respect because he's had it for so long and he's been at the club for so long. When I look at the pitch, I see Højbjerg as the biggest leader there. I see Kane as a leader there. I see Eric Dyer as a leader there. I know you're saying that you don't see Kane and Dyer as leaders, but I actually do. And I think that when you're looking...
No, I think they're leaders in different ways.
Yeah, fine, fair enough. But when I'm looking at leaders on the pitch, I look at those three players. I don't really look at Hugo. And I think that Hugo might actually just be a captain out of respect right now. And I think the leaders on the pitch are actually different players than Hugo.
Yeah, that could be true. Sometimes I've seen that situation before. I think there's some other teams where I've seen captains of teams where you kind of think like, that guy kind of looks like more of a leader, in the squad. But somebody's been that captain for so long. Hard to really negotiate the politics of that. You're probably right there. It's actually a bit political, even to a degree, within the squad. Like, does Hugo want to give up the captaincy? Probably not. So then you have to really make that sort of kind of, I don't know, it's almost like that Talk Sport Steven Gerrard situation where you make a big statement then by kind of stripping Hugo of the captaincy. And then you have to be delicate about kind of reasoning and rationalizing why you did do it. So it's a delicate situation, maybe more than we like. It's not so easy just to take it away from him. Absolutely. But kind of maybe final question for Sean. I think you just said as well, if I'm not mistaken, just so that I don't feel like you don't get to, or just so that I feel like you didn't get to miss any Hugo comments. Sean, any final ones from you? Would you strip him of the captaincy if given the chance? Would you give it to Højbjerg?
This season?
Just maybe next season in general. That'd be your timeline, not pressuring you.
Look, I think if he continues to make mistakes, he will naturally at some point probably be rested and rotated for Foster anyway. And in that scenario, his armband goes to Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, which would be my replacement. I think it would be pretty disrespectful to take the armband off him in his final year, which would be next year. So, I don't think it's that. I agree with Ben to a point in that it's not substantially significant to the point where you want to embarrass or disrespect the guy who's been around for 10, 11 years, whatever. Fair. But it's the second that Hugo Lloris, his replacement is found, whoever that is, in the next 18 months, then of course he has to be, once he starts to lose his place regularly in the first team, which will happen, I guess, in a drip feed methodology anyway, then for me, the next cab off the rank that makes the most sense for me is Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. I think he's, one of the things I love about Pierre-Emile Højbjerg this season is what you want from a leader. Your leader doesn't need to be necessarily the most vocal. He doesn't need to be the most competent. He doesn't need to be anything like the most of anything. He needs to be competent in what he does, and yet a leader on the pitch and
have his wits about him,
like Jordan Henderson.
Yeah, exactly. And Højbjerg is a perfect representation of that. More so, I think, than Harry Kane. He's a leader in what he does, not what he says. Romero, I think, is too hit and miss, too volatile. I love his aggression, but he can't even speak the language. I don't know how you can give the captain the armband.
He also he's a bit of a psycho as well. You don't even want a psycho leading.
Yeah. But for me, I think what you want from a leader is somebody who steps up when other people around you that you've come to rely on are having a bad day or a bad week or a bad month or a bad season, which is what we're seeing thus far this season with the likes of Sonny and Kane, two guys we've come to rely on are not necessarily anywhere near their peak. You look for the guy to go, I'm going to step up. And if you look across the Tottenham 11, the one player that is always ever present, he's always there. And if anything, he's kicked on to another level this season, is Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. So
yeah,
I'm not asking for Lloris to be stripped. Whenever the right time is for Lloris to be edged out of the first team over the next 18 months, the next cab off the rank for me is Pierre, for sure.
Great answer, Sean. Very professional answer.
Let me just ask one question. You know, obviously, Hugo captain right now. Everyone wants to see Højbjerg captain, or we've all said Højbjerg should be next in line. If you were to take let's say, if you take away the armband from Hugo now and give it to Højbjerg straight away, let's say now, would anything change?
I think Højbjerg's. I think Lloris's form might dip.
But would anything change from a Højbjerg perspective, or will he carry on doing the job he's doing with the leadership skills that he's showing? Because I don't think much would change.
I think he might take that responsibility on his shoulders and step on.
I think he already is, though.
Yeah, but I think if there's 2%, 3% more, I think you might see it from him. But I think you'd actually lose maybe 10, 15% from Lloris. I think he would see that as a slap in the face, and so it's not worth the risk.
Is there something to be said too, where you can't always overstep? As much as you see yourself as the leader, you don't always want to, step in front of the leader's footsteps. And when he has his opportunity to be a leader, Højbjerg might, want to hold back a bit, because at the end of the day, he does know Hugo is the captain. Where if you did have perhaps Højbjerg doing maybe a few more of some of the speeches at halftime or whatever, and maybe just some more of the sort of, I don't know, kind of a collecting of the boys, maybe it might be some difference. But I don't know. You're probably right, Ben. Maybe there wouldn't be that much of a difference. And there is something to be said that there could be a drop off with Hugo.
When I'm at the games, I see Højbjerg trying to G up the players around him all the time, talking in their ear, giving them instructions. I mean, when I look at the players on the pitch, it looks as though Højbjerg is the captain without being the captain.
So you don't feel like he'd be doing much more anyway?
I don't think so.
Yeah, interesting. Actually, there's probably something to be said with that.
Did you guys? Obviously, you guys all watched the Amazon documentary, right? A couple of seasons ago. Did you remember watching Hugo Lloris's final G up speech when he got the team in before they walked out? I always felt like he spoke at 1,000 miles an hour, and it just didn't come across.
It wasn't inspiring.
It wasn't inspiring to me.
I actually like them. I was inspired by them. I came out.
That's why you lose that FIFA, Ben. That's why you lose that FIFA. You're getting the wrong pre-match talks. That's why you lose that FIFA.
You got done 8-0.
I don't think JPB. I think JPB would have something to say about this too.
How bad did I do you in return?
Come back to London. We'll see what you're like on away turf.
How about what happens is you guys have to play each other. You guys have to play each other on the couch. Dave makes Højbjerg captain. Ben keeps Hugo as captain. Best 2 out of 3. See what happens. See who's the better leader after that. Paul Markey here with his super chat. And apologies for not getting to this sooner, Paul. But honestly, had a good chat with Hugo there, so we had to do it. Paul Markey saying Richie is not a backup for Sonny or Kulu. He hasn't got their game. Perhaps a straight backup for Kane, ? Perisic should go into coaching. His game is gone. Interesting there from Paul. But what I would say is Dave absolutely agrees with you when it comes to maybe more of a straight backup for Kane. And while maybe people might be a bit frustrated hearing that from Paul, let's be honest, to back him up here, that's what most Spurs fans, or at least a lot of Spurs fans, were basically kind of mostly frustrated after most windows. We kind of were saying, well, we solved this, but we never solved the backup striker for Kane. A lot of people didn't want another Carlos Vinicius. A lot of people wanted something actually quality to be able to compete with Kane, as well as fill in for Kane when he isn't there. And I think we finally have solved that, I don't know what it feels like, 7-6 year sort of problem in the case of Richie. And I think we should be happy that Paratici, out of all the directors of football we've had, Paratici's finally been the guy to be able to fix that issue, the whole backup to Kane, the whole backup number 9 problem. And yeah, people can be satisfied with it. Whether they even like Richie or not, they can be satisfied that Spurs actually did what they had asked for, which is by, at least a competent sort of striker that has some sort of reputation. And then on top of that, Perisic should go into coaching. His game is gone. Anybody want to talk about that?
I'll just quickly on the Kane backup thing. The problem with that idea, and I agree with Dave and Paul. I don't think Rishi is very good on the right hand side. The problem with the idea of having him as a backup for Kane is that Harry Kane he's never going to be rested, and you're being, I think, naive if you think that he's going to sit on the bench too often or ever. I can't see us ever unless he's injured. I can't ever see him not starting a game for Tottenham at the moment. And even if he was okay with doing that, 60 million quid to play as a backup he's almost our club record signing. And it doesn't make sense. This is why I was like, I didn't like the value for money idea when it happened. I was more involved. I was more into, there's collateral damage. A lot of Tottenham fans that I very much respect in the community say they don't care about the account. They're not accountants. So it doesn't matter how much they get paid. It doesn't matter how much you pay for a player, just get the players in. But then at the same time, some of those guys still complain about the price of season tickets, still complain about the price of beer, and then also complain that we don't have a centre-back, don't have a right wing-back, don't have a creative midfielder. Money doesn't grow on trees. There's only so much to go around. And if Richarlison...
That's for Daniel Levy.
Well, not really, mate. But if the...
Starting another 2-hour debate here.
Yeah, okay. But if Richarlison was brought in to be back up to Kane, then it was stupid money spent on a player that's not going to play unless Kane's injured. And if he was bought to play more regularly, then he was the wrong person to buy because he doesn't play well off the left or the right. So, I go back and forth, Ben. I know you're massively, all in on Richarlison. And when it first happened, I wasn't all about it. Then I saw his demeanor, his character, his passion, all that stuff. And I fell in love with his character, kind of like the way I fell in love with Emerson. But both Emerson and Richarlison are very easy to love as people, but they frustrate the life out of me with their ability on the pitch.
Yeah, and look, I get your frustrations. I really do. And I think Richarlison, he hasn't been great the last couple of weeks. He hasn't. It's just the facts of the matter. And Emerson, I think, speaks for itself. But the fact of the matter is the state of the squad. I mean, we sold Bergwijn to bring in Richarlison when we needed both of them, or we needed a replacement for Bergwijn and another one to come in. But in the facts of the matter, we got Richarlison and brought Bryan Hill back, and Bryan Hill wanted to go out on loan, and we wanted him to go out on loan. So we didn't do enough this window, and that's just the facts of the matter.
That's very true, actually, where Richie was supposed to be able to fill in and do a job on the left and the right. But with the moving of Hill, that would have been an extra winger, what you would have thought that could have helped out. And then Lucas, as we also know, too, is hurt, too. But it was supposed to be actually a replacement for Hill. And we were expecting there to be a replacement for Hill in the case of a Malinowski or whatever it would have been. It would have been something. And you're absolutely right, Ben. And perhaps that player that we did bring in would have been more of a specialist on the right wing or whatever it may be, might be right there. But Dave, just to get to Paul Markey here, Perisic, perhaps a bit wise beyond his ability now. Maybe he's more wisdom than actual ability.
I think it's very harsh. I think it's very harsh. I'll be honest. Look, the guy's a proven world-class player. He's been at the top of the game for years. Look, hasn't hit the ground running at Tottenham. I'll be honest. I've been ultimately so far disappointed with what he's produced. But again, we're not playing well. I'm sure his form will improve as Tottenham improve him. I think he'll work out to be a bit of shrewd business.
Big up Paul Markey. Love the hot takes, my man. He doesn't shy away from the hot takes. Paul does. Speaks his mind very bravely as well. Big up, Paul. Really appreciate you as well, my man. Really appreciate your support since the beginning. Brad Matthews, penalty save in the Champions League quarterfinal. Pretty big game. Hugo is not beyond criticism, but 11 mistakes in around 100 big games is an 89% success rate. Well, that's a much better percentage than I was offering. I think I was offering about 51%, Brad. 89%. I wish I had.
It's a fair comment, to be fair.
A little bit of a mic drop there from Brad. He actually hesitated to use the mic drop emoji, but well done there. And pretty big save it was in that quarterfinal.
Another one was North London Derby at Wembley. Didn't he save a penalty? I think I was there. I think he saved it. And then Jan Vertonghen booted it over the bar. And there was that big VAR controversy. Was Jan Vertonghen already in the box when it was kicked? Look, Hugo Lloris, I'll give it to him. I don't mind him as he He's decent enough with penalties. He is decent enough, but
Very
I
good
still stand by
penalties,
what I said. Still stand by what I said.
Yeah.
Also,
he
mistakes, big mistake. If you're looking at sofa score or whatever, big mistakes count only for saves that lead to goals or whatever else. But we're not like the 89%. I love the comment, by the way, Brad. But when like a mistake is never like his inability to find the right distribution, the right pass, or like the mistake that he did against West Ham where he sliced the ball out that led to the quick throw in that led to the goal that cost us the 2 points. I'm not saying that was all on Hugo, but it was in some part Hugo's fault. That's not measured in a big mistake that you'll find on any stat record. So,
well, he's got better percentages than I do to offer. Brad does. He's got better proportions of percentages to offer than I do. Brad, great defense of our Hugo. I know Ben is proud. I can tell he's absolutely beaming seeing the defense of our captain. Big up, Brad Matthews, another match going fan.
Comment of the night.
Hugo.
Comment of the night.
Love that. Love that. Big
Brad.
up, Brad. Appreciate you, brother. And hopefully we can speak to you soon on Friday. But everybody, I think that's about wrapping it up here. We're going to get plugged into some channels, some really good discussions here today. We've heard from Sean. We've heard from Ben. And Sean, tell us about Spurs Talk. Sean, putting it into the chat right now, my man. Any sort of things that we should be aware of out on the channel or anything that's coming up these days that Harris Army should be aware of?
At the moment, until I can get, I've got a Sky engineer coming out tomorrow to review everything that's happening. But unfortunately, for the last 2-3 weeks now, I haven't been able to do any live streams. So apologies to all the people that have been calling me saying what's going on. At the moment, I'm restricted to just doing my Tottenham walks every day. And that's going to have to do until I can get the problem resolved. Can only apologize to those, especially to the members of my show that pay money and I they can't contribute to the conversation. So can only apologize. It's getting fixed, but you can find me, for those who haven't, at Spurs Talk Show, all one word, on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And everybody do hit that link, please. Sean's been doing an absolute service. Joe's going on the watch alongs, just being on the channel a lot these days, everybody. So do make the time for him. And then some people hopefully are going to have the time for you, Sean, today, as we discovered today. Hopefully they do find the time for you. But everybody show him some love. Ben's channel, We Are Tottenham TV. Ben, I just even am seeing a great, very relevant video to check out. Are Spurs too defensive, which you just put out there?
Yeah, we delved deep into the stats of this season, attacking stats and defensive stats to see, how defensive we actually have been this season. We also compared it to a bit of last season as well, so go check that out. And apart from that, you'll be seeing a big Hugo Lloris loving from now until the end of the season. So come and join the party.
There you go. Keep the faith. That the faith in the captain is over there. Faith in Conte over here as well. Faith in captain and the big man Hugo is definitely on We Are Tottenham TV. And I also am seeing the Predict the Prem as well. If you want to maybe take your mind off of Spurs, check that out.
Just quickly, Jack, I just wanted to remind Ben that I've only seen 1 or 2 videos about your fantasy Premier League stuff. Is that because I'm top of your league and you don't want to acknowledge me too often or too frequently? I don't know. I mean, I feel like
we actually made a conscious decision. We said as soon as Sean gets off top spot, then we're going to bring it back because we want to see Butler getting battered everywhere. That's the facts of the matter. No, but I'm kidding. I think that we were in Germany this week, so we just couldn't get it done. To be honest,
no, I'm only kidding. It was more just a plug for the fact that my team is top of the league.
Yeah, you had like Tross. I saw your team this week, like Trossard and Haaland and Dave. You still got Van Dijk captain.
Yeah, consistency is key, Ben. Consistency is key.
Yeah, nice, very nice.
Definitely. And
If
you want to check out Flat Cap, everybody, and if you do want a new modern manager into the building, most recent video I have to offer is a manager that is in a nice turtleneck. He does have a nice haircut, and he does seem to have a good sense of style. All the things we like in the new modern manager. Matthias Jaisla is his name, so check it out if you do want perhaps a new manager at your club or even perhaps Tottenham. Who knows? But feel free to check it out. I think you'll like it. B-Tech Klopp, like said before, he is absolutely the B-Tech Klopp, I would say, the CI's lit guy. So if you're looking for the B-Tech Klopp, there he is.
With the way you pronounce fucking names, you know, you could be giving Eric Dyer lessons and being multi-bilingual, jack up. Jerome here with the last super chat of the evening. He says, do you think that the media and other rival fan channels are overreacting with our start of the season? I swear they would try everything. Look, do you know what? Actually alluded to it in the first question that we were answering today. Look, I think the reason why Conte gets the questions he does, Klopp Guardiola doesn't get selection questions the way he does, formation questions the way he does. I think the reason why Conte gets it is because the Premier League want to brand themselves as the most exciting league in the world, the most attacking league in the world. And with Conte here being up inside that top four mix, playing his style of football, it doesn't look good for their brand, to be honest with you. So that's why I think you're seeing the media push on someone like Conte, to be honest with you, Jerome. That's just my thought. I don't know if anyone else thinks like that. I just know that the media shit on us all the time. They don't want Tottenham to be up around there. They want the big traditional top four, top six back without Tottenham, and it kills them that we're sitting there with the way they hate. You can almost say we're kind of like a fuck the establishment team. So at the minute, and I kind of enjoy it, to be honest. It feels good.
I agree.
I think there's just so much riding on this season, Jerome. And it coming from the fan channels, we just have a lot of intensity right now because we have so much riding on this season. We have high expectations. And like maybe Ben alluded to earlier and Adrian Chia alluded to earlier, us being so close to the likes of the Scum right now and the Scum doing so well certainly plays a part into it as well, maybe with kind of the drama out there. And then when it comes to the media in general, I actually agree with Dave. I think it's absolutely spot on. The likes of Jason Cundy and whatnot, and who really don't like Spurs. There's already a huge plethora of pundits who are pretty much anti-Spurs, who have played for clubs that absolutely despise the likes of us. And then on top of that, I agree. Perhaps the more aesthetic, kind of beautiful football these days is what's probably preferred by the average neutral fan. And if they're seeing a guy being successful with something that isn't what they might like on their eye, then they're going to try to find a way to poke holes in it, or they're going to try to find a way to take it down when they can. And it's just maybe that's the answer we can give, Jerome. But it's a good question, brother. It's a great question.
Up, Jerome. Really appreciate the support, brother. But look, guys, we are going to end off here. I want to say a massive thank you, first of all, to Jack, to Ben, to Sean, who really make this show happen. So big up to you, boys. Everyone out there enjoys it. We get good feedback off it. We'll be back here next Tuesday. Hopefully the elusive Sim, actually. I'm putting the call out there. Sim, stop being elusive. You have to take Ben's spot here next Tuesday. Make sure you're on, my man. But as well, a massive thank you to you guys who tune in. A massive thank you to you guys who continue to support this channel relentlessly the way you do, and everyone else, and everyone who helps support it financially as well. Great questions tonight, great talking points, great comments in the chat and super chats. And make sure you check out Philip's Daily Talk coming out again tomorrow. Today, it's got to be a good kickoff. People seem to have enjoyed it. So make sure you look out for that tomorrow. Plus, a fan show we'll be doing as well. So come on, have your say before the weekend games. But until then, come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust.
Come on,
Rest in peace, Ventroni.
Rest in peace,
Rest in peace,
Ventroni.
In Conte we trust.
Bye.
You go out.